Okay, now I will talk about my English. I had been working as an English spoken tourist guide for Saigon Tourist Company since from 2007 to 2014. And during that time, I worked for the walking department. That means some tourists they just walking the company and book the tour by themselves, and the tour we just go uh, within one day. Mean that we come and pick them up at their hotel, and then we make some tour to some places near Ho Chi Minh City that we can go there and get back within one day. I enjoy going on that tour. Okay. And during 7 years of working as a tourist guide, I um, I really pick up some skill and experience about the tour guide career. However, I soon realized that the real benefit of being a tourist guide not just money or some experience. I just took that chance to perfect myself, especially my knowledge, my experience, my English speaking skill, my art of communication. And now, my student, you will be the one who take the benefit from what I have learned during that time. So in this clip, I will talk about my English. What's special about my English in compare with the other teachers? I strongly believe that I can take English, especially English communicative skill, better than even some American teacher. Why so? Because I usually make the speech in front of the foreign tourists, and my tourists they are usually from different countries around the world. If they just speak English, I will go with them. And they are usually older than me, even smarter, more educated. They has they have more property. Yeah, many things much better than me. Okay, and you know one thing about the foreigners, especially the foreign listeners, they are very frank. They they will they will show their ideas, their judgment or comment right away when you talk about something. So I usually receive the comment, compliment, even the judgment, and even some scold just right away when I make the speech in front of them. I don't I don't try to follow the other tour guide, try to make a medium or try to make a acceptable speech. That means when we talk in that way, we mention those information or knowledge, we will avoid all of the argument and judgment from the tourists. Okay, I call that medium, medium speeches. I try to argue. I try to show some of my points, some points that I believe is right. And if they don't agree with me, they can argue with me. And thanks to that way, after a short time, I have I had a lot of ideas that I have learned from foreigners. But before we talk about the ideas, I talk about um, my ways of making the speech, about my English in general, words, vocabulary, grammars, function, intonation, way to use words, many things. And I show you my English has some very clear characteristics. First, it's very clear. Most of my words that I chose when I speak to foreigner, I try to make it very clear as possible. Even the words, the ideas, and what I wanna, my talk, my opinion, I make it very clear. Of course, tourists, they didn't have plenty of time to listen to me. They didn't make some good preparation before my speeches. They just listen. And even they are from the English spoken country, but that doesn't mean that they can understand everything I talk. So I try to make it very clear because they don't prepare to listen to me. So it's okay. So I have to make it very clear by I use very simple, very exact, very clear word. I try to refuse some very professional way, very academic writing, academic expression. I don't do that. So my tourists, sometimes they are not from Canada, America, Britain, or New Zealand or Australia. They may from the other country to Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia. Okay, so I have to make it very simple. So my English is easy to understand. It's understandable. That's it. And then I must speak correctly, especially about the information and ideas. Like I say, the foreign listeners, they are very frank. They won't accept any lying or any fake or unreal information, at least in their talk, in their knowledge. They will refuse and argue with you at once as soon as you tell them something unreal, something fake, something unfair. They will argue. That's it. So we have to make sure everything's come out of our mouths must be correct. And I keep that habit. I keep that rules. I must speak correctly. Yeah. And finally, I try to make it as interesting as possible. Just simply because I need to earn some money. If I don't make my speech very interesting, very exciting, they won't tip me. Yeah? Okay. So, of course, there are many ways to get tip. We can become their so helpful servicer, so that they tip you, they tip us. But I don't do that way. I want to be self-respected too. So I try to give them amazing, interesting speech about Vietnamese culture, history, people, war, anything. And of course, beside that, I give them warm behavior, warm breathing, and good care, and some other things. But I want to make them impressed with my speech too. By I prepare enough information, good idea, logical idea, and the way when I deliver the speech, I make them very impressive with my talk. Yeah, by using some words, using some tactic of standing comedian, yeah, and make them try to be humorous and make them surprised. Interesting surprised. Yep. And I don't just try to say some dirty words, slang, or make some old trick, dirty trick to make them happy, make them surprised or shocked. I don't try to shock them. I just use my literal way, I just try to use my polite, gentle way of talking, but make it real interesting. Yeah. So by that way, I make my tourists feel relaxing and satisfied, and they feel so pleased during the tour. And for that, they like to tip me some for my extra attempt during the tour. That's it. So usually my English and my speech go like that. I usually do in a very clear and very correct and interesting way, and make it as well as possible. So until now, when I teach English for my students, and whenever I guide them or train them to make the speech, I try to make it short, make it literal or figurative, but at least I try to make it very clear, very correct and interesting, as I used to talk with the foreigners during the time when I work as a tourist speaking tour guide. And I guess that if the student if you have chance to study from me and you learn my way of speaking English, I think you will gain a lot of benefit, because in business, when you talk to the other businessman, but you make everything very clear, very short, and you make it correct, and you do it, you talk in a very interesting, amusing way, I think people will like to talk with you, to work with you. Yeah. And we refuse to talk in a very academic way, very rhetorical. We don't need to do that at all, right? That's it.